Less than 2 weeks ago, Mark Carney signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with the Alberta government. The purpose of that MOU, the reason why there was a big signing ceremony and he went out there to visit Alberta was to get a pipeline built. The whole purpose of this exercise was to make the claim that he supported a pipeline. Now, he added a whole bunch of conditions like forcing through a massive hike to the industrial carbon tax, but it was all towards the goal of building a pipeline to the West Coast. Now, Conservatives have been skeptical about this right from the beginning because Mark Carney says one thing when he's in Alberta and something completely different when he's anywhere else in the country. And when you look at Mark Carney's entire professional history, he has been anti-oil and gas. He cheered on Trudeau when the Liberals vetoed Northern Gateway. He said that the carbon tax, which chased away a whole lot of investment from the energy sector, was too low. He wrote a book called Values, where he defined himself as a human being and said up to 50% of Canada's natural resources should be left in the ground. And then he said it on TV.
That's half of gas, 3/4 of coal, etc. Maybe up as much as half of oil reserves, proven reserves, need to stay in the ground if we're going to get to where we are.
Are these the actions of a man who supports pipelines? So we're going to put him to the test, and Liberals will be forced to vote yay or nay on the concept of a pipeline. Just that basic principle that a new pipeline to the West Coast would be a good thing. All we're asking the Liberals to do is to agree in principle on the goal of a pipeline. This would be like if you're trying to sell your house and a buyer comes along and says, yes, I'd like to buy your house, but I'd like you to change the paint color and redo the landscaping in the backyard. And you say, okay, if I do those things, do you agree to buy the house? And then the buyer says, whoa, let's not get too hasty. If you sign an agreement in principle and establish conditions that would make you want to buy the house, then you should be able to clearly say you are in favor of buying the house. That's essentially all we're asking the Liberals to do. Every other political party has clearly stated their position. The NDP and Bloc, they don't want a pipeline. Conservatives absolutely do want to sell more of Canadian oil and gas around the world. We want this pipeline built. It's just the Liberals that keep talking out of both sides of their mouth, that keep saying one thing to one group of people and something completely opposite, actually diametrically opposed to what their claim is. Tomorrow, they won't be able to run anymore. They'll have to stand up and be counted, so tune in and find out. Is Mark Carney actually going to be different, or is he just another Liberal politician?
I know you're familiar with that. He has specifically written chapter and verse. He's gone on, he's gone on TV shows and he's talked about the need to leave our oil and gas in the ground. But he's got a problem because Canadians want it. But praise of carbon tax's team here in Ottawa that, don't worry, it'll never happen.
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. We've got our guy Andrew Scheer coming up on Power Play with Vasi Capellos. Vasi Capellos has been doing a better job of journalism lately. Not in this one. She goes full-blown hack rogue CTV fake reporter in this one. She loses all of her composure. Andrew Scheer smiles his way through it, but you can tell he's trying to explain it to Vasi like she's a 5-year-old. Let's take a peek. Andrew Scheer is charming. Vasi, man, what is wrong with you today?
That's something everyone...
I want to bring in Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer, who is live with us now from the House of Commons. Hi, Mr. Scheer. Good to see you again. Thank you very much for making the time. Okay, let me just make sure I can hear you. Can I hear you now? Sorry.
I can hear you fine. I don't know if you can hear me, but...
Now I've got you. My apologies. Let me just start off on the amendments today, because when we spoke last night, it was just a straight up and down, do you support the construction of an additional pipeline? Today, Mr. Poilievre in the morning announced some additional language from the MOU around carbon capture, for example, Indigenous ownership, working with BC. It didn't include the industrial price on carbon. If you were going to include other stuff, why not that?
Well, Conservatives have always been opposed to carbon taxes, but really this vote is about the essence of it. You know, the point of the MOU, the point of Mark Carney flying out to Alberta and going through the signing ceremony was to get to a pipeline. It wasn't really for anything else. And what we're hoping to do is get Liberals on the record here in Ottawa. Do they support this deal that their own Prime Minister signed? When we think about what it's going to take to get a pipeline built to the Pacific Ocean, This should be the easiest part of it. And the fact that Mark Carney can't even get his own caucus on board tells us that he's not going to be able to succeed on this. How is he ever going to navigate through all the various consultations, meetings with different provincial premiers, if he can't even come to Ottawa and get the very MPs who sit in his caucus to sign on to the deal that he signed himself?
But is there, why doesn't the other party to that agreement, in the Premier Danielle Smith, have the same concerns that you're raising right now? Like, why isn't she saying, I'm worried about this actually happening? She's the one that signed it. She's also a conservative. She's been very critical of federal Liberals in the past for a lack of commitment to additional pipeline export capacity. She isn't saying what you're saying.
Well, look, I mean, I'm not going to speak for the Premier of Alberta. I suppose that, if Mark Carney wants to compare his record to Justin Trudeau's record and offer even a glimmer of hope to the province of Alberta, the government of Alberta is going to make those kinds of decisions. What the Conservatives are offering the people of Alberta and all Canadians is a yes. We support a pipeline to the Pacific Coast. We want Canada to sell more of our energy to Asian countries, getting off that U.S. dependence. And Vashi, when other countries around the world are buying Canadian exports, that means that they do that in Canadian dollars. That's going to boost the purchasing price of the Canadian dollar. It's going to benefit every Canadian who has to buy things in the grocery store or in other stores. This is a win-win all around. And what Conservatives would do is we would get that path to the Pacific Ocean, getting Western Canadian natural resources to market without an industrial carbon tax, without all these new hoops and hurdles that's forcing Alberta to navigate through even more red tape to get to a yes. So that's the contrast here. But the point of the motion here tonight is this motion doesn't contradict anything in the MOU. It doesn't ask Liberals to denounce any part of the MOU. We're just trying to find out can Mark Carney find consensus even in his own caucus to support a pipeline? And as of 5:10 this evening, the answer to that is no.
But why does he need that consensus in order to support the pipeline? Like, in the MOU, it expressly says that he will. Pierre Poilievre, the leader of your party, has taken views on a wide variety of subjects that not all your MPs agree on. Why is that consensus necessary?
Well, because I believe what Canadians are watching unfold is this. Mark Carney does not believe in developing more oil and gas. He wrote that in his book, and I know you've at least I know you're familiar with that. He has specifically written chapter and verse. He's gone on he's gone on TV shows and he's talked about the need to leave our oil and gas in the ground. But he's got a problem because Canadians want it. So what he's doing is he's telling Canadians right now, he said, some date far into the future, 2027, maybe 2029, there's a possibility of a pipeline. And he's coming back to Ottawa and he's telling all the people who share his radical ideology, his leave it in the ground, praise of carbon taxes team here in Ottawa, that don't worry, it'll never happen. And that's what we're trying to draw out here, to show Canadians, like, if the Liberal caucus had confidence in the MOU that Mark Carney signed himself, this should be a no-brainer. This should have been a Tuesday morning announcement where they said, of course we're going to vote in favor of this. Mark Carney just signed on to it. But the fact that they're so twisted on this, the fact it took them days and days to arrive at a decision, tells you that they're not in support of this. And the reason why this is important is because there are elements in this MOU that will require changes to legislation. And if Mark Carney can't get his own team on board, what does that say about what would be required to actually get it passed? And when we think about all the hurdles that Indigenous consultation is difficult. It's important, but it's difficult. Working with provinces is difficult, but it's important. This should be the easiest part of the entire approval process, getting Liberals to agree with their own Liberal leaders' MOU, and Mark Carney can't get that done.
But if I think back to the rationale that your party has provided for calling for, let's say, a lot of the environmental regulations to be lifted, for calling, for various processes to be superseded, it's all been about, fostering an environment where the private sector wants to invest more, where the uncertainty that you allege was created under the previous prime minister is removed. What does making it a political football, what purpose does that serve in that vein? Like, are you not sending a signal by trying to expose what you would characterize as a very divided caucus, like cast doubt on this MOU? Are you not doing exactly what you said Prime Minister Justin Trudeau did?
Well, first of all, I don't believe it's fair to say we're alleging that there was uncertainty in investment in the natural resource sector. Every single major Canadian pipeline project was either vetoed or canceled or abandoned, and those Canadian energy companies took those dollars and invested in the United States to the point where the Liberal government had to buy a pipeline, something that never happened in previous Conservative or even previous Liberal governments. And what this motion was all about was to show that consensus here in Ottawa that yes, Conservatives have been in favor of pipelines, we've been in favor of exporting more of our natural resources. And now it's the Liberals that are blocking that. The only party that has turned this into a political football is the Liberal Party. We took the words right out of the MOU. We literally lifted it, copied and pasted it, because we wanted Liberals to be able to we wanted Liberals to be able to vote in favor of this.
Come on, Vassy.
Yeah, but respectfully, as I said, like you cherry-picked parts of the MOU. And only, decided to change that today, and still not to a fulsome degree.
No, I reject that premise, because there's not one single part of this motion that asks a Liberal to vote against another part. Again, why did Mark Carney go to Alberta? Why did he sit down beside Premier Danielle Smith to sign this MOU? It wasn't to get to a yes on anything other than a pipeline to the Pacific. So the point was, let's all agree on that. Liberals and Conservatives might have a difference of opinion on how to get there, on how to do that without, say, a massive hike in the carbon tax, but surely after that MOU was signed, we can all agree that that was the goal. And we fully expected that the Liberals would vote in favor of this. Then they started raising opposition. They started raising objections based on carbon capture, based on Indigenous consultation, and working with other provinces. So we said, okay, well, let's take that off the table for you. Let's put that into the motion. This was a good faith effort to show some kind of consensus here in Ottawa, to send that signal to the investment community that the two major parties in Canada support a pipeline to the Pacific, and the Liberals can't even deliver their part of it.
Mr. Scheer, with great respect, you think that you think Canadians will believe that you wanted to show consensus in good faith, that you did not want to expose divisions within the Liberals on an issue that has been a political winner for your party and now appears to be less so?
Just because the Liberals say something doesn't make it true, Vashi. You'll pardon me for taking Mark Carney at his word. When he signs the MOU and says that all Liberals support it, I believe it's totally fair to say, okay, well, let's have the House of Commons endorse that. The only party that has turned this into any kind of a as you say, a political football or a division are the Liberals. Every other party is very clear on where they stand. Don Davies and the NDP, extremely clear. They don't support pipelines. That's fine. They can take that message to the Canadian people. The Conservative Party, we've been very clear for the past 10 years and prior. We support our men and women in the energy sector. We see the benefit for all Canadians selling more of our natural resources around the world. It's only the Liberals that are twisting themselves up on this, and they're projecting. They're projecting onto the Conservative Party. They're trying to spin the media into saying that this is somehow something that the Conservatives are doing. We literally took Mark Carney at his word. We took his words on the page that he signed himself, and we're just asking the House of Commons to endorse that.
Okay, we'll look forward to the vote. Mr. Scheer, thank you so much for making the time for this. I appreciate it as always.
Was having a bad day, gang.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. We'll wrap it up there, gang. Aaron Canadian Looney, Vassy was off the hook right there. That's a disastrous job of journalism. I mean, come on. What kind of propaganda? Whose lawyer are you? Sounds like Mark Carney's in that interview. Anyhow, like, share, subscribe, get notified. Come and watch one of our live shows. Get involved in the chat room. Watch one of the other videos floating around here. Thanks for watching. Ciao for now. Smash the like. Hit subscribe. Aaron Canadian Looney. We're out for now. Catch you in the next video.
Anytime you hear Mark Carney talking about trade with the US or tariffs on Canadian exports, you should just say, who cares, change the channel, and tune him out, because that was his message to you. So you know what, Mark Carney, this part's especially for you. On behalf of the millions of Canadians you've let down and insulted, every time you open your mouth in Parliament, our message to you, who cares?